I don't think you determine what your purpose is. I think you discover what your purpose is. There's a difference. Determining indicates deciding. And I don't think you decide. I think if you go about it the right way, you discover it. Like there's some people that should be painting all day. They're great artists. I think Michelangelo was obviously a great artist, a great sculptor. I mean, that was his purpose in his life. Well, I believe my purpose is doing what I'm doing. Your purpose is why you get out of bed in the morning. Do you know why you get up? Well, most people say, well, it's to go to work. Well, that'd be a good reason to stay in bed. You know, you say, well, everybody's doing it. That'd be another reason to stay in bed. If you're ever doing what everybody's doing, you're probably going in the wrong direction. Your purpose is your reason for living. What you want to do is sit down and maybe take a pen and a pad and then ask yourself, what do I really love doing? Now, you may have to spend a while at this. You might get up an hour early every morning and go sit under a tree somewhere if you're in a nice climate, or pick a favorite chair, someplace where you're not going to be disturbed, and totally relax and say, if I could spend my life doing something, what do I really love doing? Now, since you don't ask yourself that question every day, it might take a while for this answer to come to the surface. But it comes to your consciousness. And it may take a while. You may have to do this every morning for 3 months. But it would be well invested, the time.
Rule number 2, don't waste your minutes.
How many times have you had somebody say to you, hey, have you got a minute, Bob? Have you got a minute? They don't want a minute. I want you to think about that. I read a poem one time. It said, I have only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it. It was forced upon me. I can't refuse it. I didn't seek it and I didn't choose it, but it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it. It's only a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. Well, at any rate, I thought, I'm going to put this on a video and I'm just going to share it with everybody. Just this one little part out of the seminar I'm making. I want you to look at this sand timer and I want you to think about your life. The sand in the top of the glass represents the future. The sand in the bottom of the glass represents the past. Now, do you know, we know what's in the past and yet we can't do anything about it. Do you know what the trick is? You don't know how much sand's in the top of the glass. You may think you have a lot, you might only have a little. Then again, you may think you have a little, and you might have a lot. When I was a little boy, I was raised by my grandmother. And I don't know, when I was a little gaffer, she was probably 60, but as long as I can remember, Grandma would say, I'll soon be gone, dear, I'll soon be gone. Well, you know, we loved her. She was really an angel of God, but we thought she was never going to go. She lived to be 94 for 30-some years. I'll soon be gone. She didn't think she had much time left. She had 34 years left. Now, about the same time, I had a buddy of mine, Bob Yates. He was just 16. And bang, he ran into the abutment of a bridge and his life was snuffed out. If you had asked him a half hour before how much sand he had left, he would have said at least a half a century. He didn't have a half an hour. See, the trick is we don't know how much sand we have left. The future, we don't know. The past, it's gone. Now, the only thing you can deal with is what's right here, right now. And if you look, the sand is always moving. Now, think of this. You see, I was working on that, and then I was working on a graph I've got here on my computer, and I'm thinking of the time somebody said, hey, have you got a minute? Well, they don't really want a minute. Do you know if you're earning $50,000 a year, a minute's 42 cents? A half hour is $12.50. If we take that ahead a bit, if you're earning $80,000 a year, a minute's 67 cents. Half hour is $20. If you're earning $150,000 a year, you got a minute? It costs you $1.25 a minute. A half hour is $37.50. So do you see, if somebody said, do you want to stop for a cup of coffee? Well, if you're earning $250,000 a year, A minute is $2.08. Half hour is $62.50. And then, of course, you got the coffee to pay for on top of that. So you see, the point is this. This is all we've got right here, right now. We don't know how much we have left in the future, but we do know what we've got now. And I have found the people that win are the people who make up their mind. They're not going to waste the minutes. They're going to be productive. They're going to make it happen every minute.
Rule number 3, stand out.
That success was the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Anyone that has a goal and they're moving towards it, they're successful. Most people think that you're successful if you have a lot of money. Quite often you have a lot of money if you're successful, but it isn't. I wouldn't say Mother Teresa has a lot of money.
Okay.
But she's a pretty successful lady. So it's...
okay, so that barrier to success...
Well, there's a couple of them.
Okay.
I think there's 2 barriers. One is our conditioning. The conditioning that takes place in our subconscious mind from the time we're infants. All we can do is act and talk like the people around us. That's why we learn the language we learned. If there was 10 languages spoken in our home, we'd learn 10 languages without any trouble. There's usually one, and that's the only one we ever learn. And we grow older and we think, oh, I couldn't learn another language. We could learn 100 if we wanted to. You can do anything. But I think we're conditioned. We have a real strong conditioning, usually with not some very good ideas. And then that's the barrier that's inside us. The one that's outside of us is our environment. We have a tendency to act like everybody around us. And if you think about this, it does make a lot of sense. Because if you study statistics, 95% of the people live their entire life and never live the way they want to live. You know that 95% of the population in this country, let's say in North America,
okay,
the richest continent in the history of the world, they'll work productively, let's say for 40 of their 65 years,
okay,
and they'll end up with hardly any money. Well, there's got to be something wrong.
So there's not much...
5% of the people end up financially comfortable or independent.
Are you trying to depress us, Bob? Because that's...
No, actually, I think it's quite an exciting idea, because you see, the idea behind it is that anybody can win, anyone at all. But if we start studying these statistics, I think we'll arrive at the conclusion, geez, I better start thinking for myself rather than follow everybody. Most people, they get a job, they look around, they see how everybody else is doing their work, and they start doing it the same way. Mm-hmm. They should stop and think, I wonder if any of these people know what they're doing. You know, is there a better way to do it?
But don't we have a need to fit in? I mean, we don't want to stand out. We don't want to get fired. We don't want to make waves.
Exactly. Just fall into line. You know, take a number. Be like everybody around. You know, that'd be great in the animal kingdom. But human beings aren't supposed to live that way. I think we should make a few waves. We should maybe stand out, be different. Not for the sake of being different,
okay,
but because we are different. We all think different thoughts. And I believe we should start to think and build images in our mind of what we'd like to do and then set out and do it.
Okay.
Emerson did that, Edison did that, Marconi did that, Samuel Morse did that, Buckminster Fuller did that. We could go on and on and on.
Okay.
They were different. They stood out. They made a few waves.
Rule number 4, seek failures.
You should seek failures. See, if you're playing it safe, you're not going to win. If you're playing it safe, like that old saying, you know, you were taught when you're a little girl, better to be safe than sorry. Well, that's a bunch of crap. It's not better to be safe than sorry. It's by trying things that you figure out how far you can go. You got to get outside the box. Like it's reported, Edison tried 3,000 ways before he built the incandescent light. He said he didn't fail 3,000 times. He said there was 3,000 different steps to building a light bulb. Well, there's different steps to get to where you're going. And I really do treat winning and losing exactly the same. I do not let it upset me.
Do you think that's a big part of why you're so successful?
Well, it's part of why I enjoy it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it is, because I'll try anything. Like if I'm into an idea, the idea of losing never enters my mind. See, I have worked with giants. I had the good fortune of working with Sir Edmund Hillary. He was the first man to stand on top of the world. And I worked with him on 3 different occasions. And the only difference in Ed Hillary and Bob Proctor is in his size. Now, he's gone now, but he was a big man. When he shook hands with me, his hand wrapped right around mine. I felt like a dwarf, you know. And in talking to him, like it never entered his mind he wouldn't get to the top of the mountain. But he failed in 1951. He failed in 1952. It wasn't until 1953 that he got to the top of the mountain. Now, people had died for centuries trying to do that. But he said, I knew if I could see it in here, I could hold it out here. Stella Mann wrote that in a book. If you can see it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. And that's right. And if you're not prepared to lose, you're never going to win because you're always playing it safe. And there's no reward in that.
Also, if you want to have more confidence, check out my 254 series. It's free. The link to join is in the description below.
I was reminded this morning of a question I'm often asked. How do you eliminate fear from your life?
So I started to study myself. I found most people don't know who they are. They really don't.
Ask yourself, am I living the way I really want to live?
Rule number 5, conquer your own limitations.
Look at these two men. Do you know who they are? Most people don't. They're just a couple of ordinary guys. One, they're both gone now, but one was an ordinary beekeeper in Auckland, New Zealand, and the other a Sherpa guide from over around Nepal. Now there's Mount Everest. Do you know for thousands of years people had tried to get to the top of Mount Everest? People died doing it. It was believed it couldn't be done. People tried, but they didn't know how, and so they quit. There's a closer look at the mountain and where they placed their flag. They planted that flag in the mountain. Now this is the two of them after they come down the mountain. And you know something? When they started, they did not know how. They didn't know how to get to the top of the mountain. And that's what stops most people because they don't know how. As little kids, we'd go, Mommy, Daddy, I want this. And they say, now how are you going to do that? Well, as a little kid, you don't know how to do it. But they did it. In 1953, on the 29th of May, they were the first two to get to the top of that mountain. They stood right on top of the world. Do you know there's been over 1,000 people do it since then? I watched a young woman on Canadian television being interviewed, not very big. She had just come back from going to the top of Mount Everest. And the reporter asked her, they said, how does it feel now that you conquered the mountain? She said, we didn't conquer the mountain. That mountain can't be conquered. We conquered the limitations that are within ourselves.
Rule number 6, go to experts for advice.
Select a person who is already doing something that you'd like to do. Get to know that person. Go to the experts for advice. Don't ask the person next door, your mother, father, brother, or the guy that works beside you, because they don't necessarily know. There's no point in asking a person how to earn a lot of money if they're only earning $10,000 a year. They don't know. If they knew, they'd probably be earning a lot. It's like, don't go to a sick doctor if you want to get healthy.
Okay.
So you find someone that you can go to for advice. Get a real good book and lock into that book and start to study it. Like, I've had this one that looks like a Bible, you know. But this is Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. I've been reading this thing now for 23 years. I'll probably read it for another 23 years. I got another good book that I brought over here today. It's called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Now, I'm not getting a commission for selling this. The author's dead now. He's been gone for a couple of years. But Dr. Joseph Murphy wrote this book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And that's probably one of the best books that you're ever going to find because you're going to learn something about your mind when you read this book.
Okay.
Now, I read a lot of books. I've got probably 1,000 books sitting in my den at home in my library. But the one that I carry it everywhere I go, and I read it all the time, is Think and Grow Rich. I never stop reading it.
Now, where's the value for you to reread that and read it again? I mean, you must know it well enough that...
I think I could probably recite it verbatim. But the secret is, I once read in a book where it said, when you read a good book through the second time, you don't see something in it that you didn't see before. You see something in yourself that wasn't there before. You see, when I read this, I create a greater awareness.
Rule number 7, don't worry what others think of you.
You know, many years ago I read a book by Terry Cole Whitaker. It was a classic. What you think of me is none of my business. Think of the amount of time that is wasted on negative energy wondering what other people think of you. What they think of you really doesn't make any difference. It's what you think of you that makes a difference. So as you go through the day, don't worry about what other people think of you. Just say, I'm all right. I'm God's highest form of creation.
Rule number 8, crash through the terror barrier.
See this line? That's called The terror barrier. Yeah, jumping at you, isn't it? And on the other side of the terror barrier is something we call freedom. And you know, very few people get through that terror barrier. It's rather sad. Freedom is available to everyone. There isn't anyone that cannot live the way they want to live. See? Why don't they? Why don't they? They don't know. And they don't even know they don't know. Now I'm going to show you why people experience buyer's remorse when they buy something they really want, and then they back away, where they go to move and they don't. They go to change jobs and they don't. They go to move to another city and they don't. Why? Fear causes them to stay where they are. There's the individual. The X represents the unknown factor, the paradigm. Now, there's a power flowing into this individual's mind, and they can make anything out of it they want. Remember we said we had the ability to choose? What do they choose? They choose thoughts that are in harmony with the paradigm. Now, here's an important point. The paradigm controls the vibration of this thing we call our body. Our body is a molecular instrument. That's really what it is. It's a mass of molecules and a very high speed of vibration. The vibration that the body's in on a conscious level we call feeling. When a person says they feel this way or they feel that way, what they're really doing is describing the vibration they're in. Now, they choose thoughts that harmonize with the vibration they're in so they feel comfortable. They may not like the results, but they're comfortable. Now let's move ahead. Let's take a look here. Those people are getting X-type results and they don't like it. Do you know what the problem with them? They're in bondage. These people are locked up. Do you know, paradigm is like keeping a person in a prison, only there's no locks on the door. They can open the prison and walk out into freedom anytime they want, and they don't. They keep getting the same results over and over and over again. They're in bondage. Now, let's go ahead. Here's the same person. X-type conditioning, X-type vibration. The power's flowing into them. And for some strange reason from left field, boom, in comes a Y-type idea. What is a Y-type idea? The Y-type idea represents anything that you might want to do that you're not doing. It might be move to another city, change jobs, sell the house, buy the farm, whatever it may be. Ask the little girl for the date. Ask the guy to go to lunch. Go make the sale. Buy what you want. Go where you want to go. That's the Y idea. But as long as the Y idea is just in the conscious mind, it's just going to be an intellectual exercise. It's never going to happen. So how do we make it happen? Well, that's when everything goes haywire. Here we are here, same person, okay? The power flows in. And what do? They got the Y-type idea. Now, for some strange reason, they know that they've got to get emotionally involved if they're going to act on that idea. They don't understand what's going to happen, but clearly understand this. Your central nervous system is the most complex electrical system in the universe. The central nervous system is mind-boggling. It would make the electrical system in a supercomputer look like a toy. Now, the second you take the idea from your intellect and impress it upon the subjective mind, that's when all hell breaks loose. Because the body moves in to an XY vibration. It's not in the X vibration, not the one that we're comfortable with. May not like the results, but we're comfortable. No, on a conscious level, everything's going crazy. On a conscious level, we experience doubt. The doubt turns into an emotion called fear, and that fear is expressed through the body as anxiety. See, that person is getting emotionally involved to move ahead. Do you know what happens? They hit that terror barrier and they bounce off it and right back into bondage. And they're so relieved to get back there. They're back where they're comfortable. They've canceled the sale. They've decided not to move. They're going to stay in the job that they don't like. At least they're comfortable. Now, that's not a very good way to live. And you know something? That's something everybody experiences if they're going to grow. You're going to hit that terror barrier. See, the terror barrier is going beyond where you're at, going to a new level. I'm going to tell you something. When I set a goal, if it doesn't scare and excite me at the same time, I know I'm going in the wrong direction. Now, I also understand that my paradigm is going to try and get me to bounce back to where I was. It doesn't want me to move ahead. I don't want to live there. I lived there for the first 26 years of my life. And for the last 50, I've had a phenomenal life. And it just keeps getting better. And I want you to do the same thing. Understand what I've just said. I'm going to back this up. They got emotionally involved in the why idea. That moved their body into a different vibration. On a conscious level, they're experiencing some crazy stuff. They start to doubt their ability, they'll never be able to pay for it. They experience fear. The fear expresses itself as anxiety. And bang, you bounce off that terror barrier and you're right back. Oh, I might not be earning much here, but I know what it is. I would love to move there, but I'm comfortable here. I think I'll just stay here. These people are acting like they have a contract to live forever. And they don't. Do you know what to do? Say, I'm going to get rid of all that. I understand it's there, but I don't want any part of it. And I'm going to go crashing right through that terror barrier. Now, does that get rid of the X energy? No. The X energy is still there, you see. But at least you're over into freedom. You made the move. You did it. And if you continue to feed the right information into your mind, keep feeding that why idea. Keep getting emotionally involved in the why idea. You're there. You're on the road. Keep doing that. You're going to find that the paradigm is going to change and it'll just all go away. And you know where you're living? In freedom. You're living where you want to live. Buyer's remorse is when you cancel the sale. Buyer's remorse is when you stop just before you buy what you really want. Before you go for the thing that's going to change your life and you know it. It's not moving to the other city. It's not starting the business of your dreams. It's not stepping out and betting on yourself. That's a terror barrier that's causing that. And if you don't learn to go through the terror barrier, I'm going to tell you something. You're going to stay right where you are for the rest of your days. That's not a good place to be. What did Joseph Campbell say? So true. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek.
Rule number 9, develop your imagination.
Many years ago, I read where Napoleon Hill pointed out that the imagination is the most marvelous, miraculous, inconceivably powerful force that the world has ever known. And you know, the average individual uses the imagination, if they use it at all, against themselves. They imagine what they don't want. They imagine problems coming. Let's begin to use our imagination the way God meant it to be used. It's the greatest creative faculty that we possess, and we can build anything we want with it. I want you to wander around your home or possibly your office and take a look at all of the conveniences that you have there that you didn't have, let's say, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years ago, 25 years ago. Do you know that every one of them, without exception, was first created in the mind of one individual with their imagination? Do you know you can use your imagination to go into the future and bring it into the present? That's what all highly successful people do. They see where they want to go, and then they act like the person they want to become. It was William James from Harvard's advice. He says it's the actor's technique. Act like the person you want to become. How do you do that? Well, you use your imagination, of course. You see, it's a strange phenomena, but the greatest gift we've got is used very well up till the ages of 4 or possibly 5. The little child, we always wonder what's going on in their mind. They're using their imagination. They're building wonderful pictures in their mind. But then they get to school, and wham, like that, it comes to an abrupt halt. It's called not paying attention. Daydreaming. Well,
what they were really doing was exercising a phenomenal mental faculty. You see, we can see, hear, smell, taste, touch. They're for our physical benefit. As long as we're living in a physical body and corresponding with the material world, we will use our sensory factors. But you know, I have a couple of little dogs at home that can hear, see, smell, taste, and touch. We've got higher faculties. You have perception, the will, memory, intuition, reason, and imagination. These marvelous tools. We can take our imagination and build an image in our mind of how we want to live. Block out what's going now. Don't let your present results have anything to do with this. Just what you want. And it's with your imagination that you will build it. Everything that we have, the camera that I'm speaking to right now, was first created in the mind of one individual. Think of how our world's changed. You see, we were gifted with these higher faculties. We're God's highest form of creation. We were created in God's image. We were given creative faculties to use. And you know, they're only used by 2 or 3% of the population. It's almost inconceivable that people would wander around with so much power and potential and squander it. See, the average person literally tiptoes through life, hoping they make it safely to death. It's such a shame, and it doesn't have to be that way. Think we have giant corporations and little wee creative departments. The primary reason for that is the average individual really does not believe that they're creative. Now think. Everyone's creative, and no one is more creative than another. It's just that some have chosen to use their creative faculties to a greater degree than others. Imagination, your imagination. What do you want? How do you really want to live? Build the picture in your mind. There's a power that is flowing to and through you. A creative, unadulterated power. It can be photographed leaving your body. Way back in the 30s, Semyon Kurlin, the Russian photographer, perfected a form of photography where you can actually photograph a person's body and you will see the energy glowing from them. Well, that energy flows into your mind. And it's the images you build in your mind that's going to dictate the vibration that this instrument you're living in is in. And the vibration on a conscious level is called feeling. Make certain that you exercise your imagination daily. Build beautiful images in your mind of how you want to live, and then hold those pictures there and live that way. The imagination, the greatest nation in the world, the imagination. You've got one. It's a marvelous creative tool. It deals with the invisible side of your personality. You see, no one will ever really see you. They'll only see your body, and they'll see you the great work that you do. Make certain that your work is great work. And if you keep your imagination alive, keep it active, you're going to have a phenomenal life. You know, life can get better every day, and it will get better every day through the proper use of your imagination. What a wonderful idea.
Rule number 10, change the paradigm.
Do you know that the law of attraction is always working? It's like the law of gravity. If I let this go, it's going to go down. It's never going to go back up, it's going to go down. That is the law of gravity. Anything heavier than Earth is attracted towards the center of the world. Well, the law of attraction is always working. Now, how does it work? Well, I use a diagram to explain the mind. Now let this circle represent your mind. And let this little circle here represent your body. Now I want you to think of this for a moment. Your body is a molecular structure. This is a massive energy and a very high speed of vibration. If you looked at your body through a microscope, you'd see that energy dancing right before your eyes. And here's something that'll keep you thinking for the next 20 years. When you move out of it, the body does not stop moving. If you go to a funeral parlor and pick up the remains and look at it, you will see it moving. And if it wasn't moving, how would it ever change to dust? You move into your body and you will move out of it. And it's how you use your mind that's going to dictate the vibration you're in. Now stay with me. You have an imaginary line right across here, and that separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind. Now the subconscious mind has been programmed. When you were a little baby, this is the way it was. You're just like this. Subconscious mind wide open, and everything that was going on around it went right in there. And all the energy that went in there when you were just a little baby formed something called a paradigm. Now a paradigm is information. It's a multitude of habits. You are the product of your environment, but prior to that, you were the product of a genetic strain that goes back for generations. Now I'm going to say that the paradigm is X-type energy. Now you've got the ability here on a conscious level to think, and you can think anything you want to think. And as you think, you build ideas. There's a power that's flowing into your consciousness. It never stops. It flows to and through you. You can actually photograph this power leaving you. It flows to and through you. Now, as it flows in, you will start thinking, and you'll probably think X-type thoughts. Therefore, you're going to be in an X-type vibration. And that will produce X-type results. Now, it's the results you want to change. And to change the results, you're going to have to change what you attract. You see, the thoughts that you think control the vibration that you're in. Vibration is nothing but an idea. It's a law of the universe. Everything vibrates, nothing rests. We live in an ocean of motion. And it's the thoughts that you're thinking that you impress upon your subconscious mind that control the vibration the body's in. And that dictates how you act, but it also dictates what you attract. You attract energy that's in harmony with you. You attract people that are in harmony with you. You see, everything operates on frequencies. There's an infinite number of frequencies, but you and I operate on a frequency just like a radio station does. And the only music you can attract is the music that is tuned into the vibration you're in. Now, it's the paradigm that has been controlling the vibration. You can change your thinking, but that doesn't do anything. You got to change the paradigm. And if you don't change the paradigm, nothing happens. Now, talking about paradigms is another subject. We'll do that at another time. But it's the thoughts that you think that control the vibration you're in, and that dictates what you attract. So if you keep attracting what you don't want, understand this. It's the paradigm that's causing the problem. You can think a Y-type thought, which is totally different than the X-type conditioning. It isn't going to go anywhere. Because when you go to get emotionally involved, and this is the emotional mind, when you go to get emotionally involved with that Y-type thought, the paradigm will kick it out. You know why? It's so uncomfortable. That's stepping out of the box. That's doing things different. And we don't like to do things different because it causes a lot of discomfort. But understand this. The paradigm and the thinking control the vibration you're in. And the vibration you're in is going to dictate what you attract. People that are in a poverty consciousness will continue to attract lack and limitation. It has nothing to do with this, what's going on here. This is your educated mind, and you could gather all kinds of information. Have you ever wondered why some people have such an educated mind? They have degrees coming right off the end of their business card, but it doesn't show up in their results. Why? Paradigm. The law of attraction. You've got to change this. You've got to change the vibration you're in, and your whole world changes. Listen, in 1961, a man gave me this book, and he said, do exactly what I tell you. He was giving me Y-type ideas. It caused an enormous amount of discomfort, but I did exactly what he said. And you know something? My income went from $4,000 to $175,000 in a year, and then I took it over $1 million. It took me 9.5 years to figure out what happened. This is what I'm showing you. Watch this over and over and over again. There's a number of lessons in here. And another lesson, I'm going to show you how to change the paradigm. When you change the paradigm, the change in results is automatic. You know why? You start to attract something new, something different. And what we want to do is program in positive information and eliminate the negative. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Law of attraction. You attract according to the vibration you're in. This thing we live in is a molecular structure. Your body is a massive energy. Do you know if you put your body in front of an infrared television camera in a completely dark room, your whole being would be nothing but a glistening, radiating, gleaming form? Feeling is conscious awareness of the vibration we're in. When we don't feel good, we're in a negative vibration. You want to feel good? Move into a positive vibration. Stop and think of what you're grateful for. But understand this, you will never attract to you wealth, happiness, health until you get the paradigm and get you on that frequency. It's Bob Proctor, and thank you.
Rule number 11, change yourself.
See, people don't resist change. People resist being changed.
Yes.
That's right.
We've got to change ourselves. We've got to build a new image, a picture in our mind. We've got to see ourselves the way we want to be, and then we have to live with it. You go to the gym workout, that's what you do. You build a picture of how you want to see this arm, and you build that picture, and then you build the body. Well, you build the life in your mind. Take your pen and write out how you want to live. And always start by writing, I'm so happy and grateful now that. And the second you write it, you've got it intellectually. The moment you impress it upon your emotional mind, you've got it emotionally. And it's only a period of time till it manifests on the physical plane.
Yeah.
Spirit works from a higher to a lower potential.
Rule number 12, expand your awareness.
Let that little yellow dot on the screen represent your level of awareness. This represents your level of awareness. This is what you're aware of. Now, everything you've got in your life, everything, your relationships, your money, everything, is an expression of your own level of awareness. See, people that earn $50,000 a year are not earning 50 because they want 50. People are earning 50 because they're not aware of how to earn 150. People that are suffering from headaches, they're not suffering from headaches because they want to suffer from headaches. They're suffering from headaches because they're not aware of how to eliminate the headache. It's their head. They made it ache. They can make it stop. So you see, it's awareness we're after. Now think of this. If that little dot represents our awareness and it's responsible for everything we've got in life, just think of how your life could change if we magnify it just a little bit. I mean, everything would start to change. Our relationships would change. We would be healthier. We would live in healthier bodies. We would know more people. We'd earn more money. We'd be able to do more interesting things. And if we just increased it a little bit more, everything starts to shift. Well, I've been living this way now for 40 years. It's absolutely fascinating. I celebrated my 70th birthday last week. I got more energy than most people, 20. I have absolutely no intentions of slowing down. People should say, you should slow down. That's a bunch of crap. We should speed up. We've got more power. Do you know the most erudite scientist alive can't even guess at what you and I are capable of doing? No one knows what we're capable of. All the power is omnipresent. That's within you, within me. Slow down. We're just starting to warm up. What we want to do is calm down. You can go at warp speed and stay very healthy if you stay relaxed. And that's really the secret. Now, just imagine we expand our awareness a little more. Do you know what this program is doing for you today? It's expanding your awareness. That's what the program is all about. Every time you come to one of these programs, your awareness is widened. Your world starts to change. You think, oh, yeah. That's pretty interesting. And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Our awareness keeps changing. Do you know that no one knows how much money you're capable of earning? There's no one can even guess at what you're capable of earning. We want to become aware. We're like we are because we're not aware of how to do it better. We know how to do it better. Every person in this room intellectually knows how to do a better job than they're doing. Everyone in the room knows how to earn more than they're earning, but they're not doing it. You see, having the knowledge is not the deal. Having the knowledge. I mean, what I remember when I was a kid, a school teacher would say to me, Bob, why'd you do that? I'd say, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? You know better. I know. Why'd you do it? I don't know. I was in the Navy. Every commanding officer, Proctor, why did you do that? I don't know, sir. What do you mean you don't know? You know better. I know. Why'd you do it? I don't know. You see, I didn't know why I was doing things. Do you know that we do things that we don't want to do? It gives us results we don't want to get, yet we do them anyway. Do you know what addiction is? It's never getting enough of what you don't want. Yet a lot of people are addicted to results that they don't want. Why do we keep doing it? You see, I think when we start to see that, that's when we start to become aware of how to take control over our life. And that's really what we want to do. So you see, awareness is the big deal. We want to become aware of the obvious opportunities that are available to us. We are surrounded by opportunity. They're everywhere you go. There is an abundance, there's no shortage of opportunity. We can win, and we can win in a big way. Now, when we lack awareness, we miss the opportunity. I used to always say that, you know, the trick is to be in the right place at the right time. I've been in the right place at the right time many times in my life, but I blew it. You know why? Wasn't aware that I was in the right place at the right. I had to look back at it. Think of it. There's something else. It's being aware that you're in the right place at the right time is not good enough. You've got to be aware that you're in the right place at the right time.
Rule number 13, replace a bad habit with a good habit.
Habits. Good habits will give you results that stick. Bad habits will destroy everything. I have some bad habits. That's right. All my habits are not great. So if you've got some bad habits, don't feel bad. So does your next door neighbor. So does your mentor, your coach. So does your mother and father if they're alive. So does everyone. And the trick of life is to replace a bad habit with a good habit. I used to hang around bars all the time. And one day I went in, I picked up a glass, and I looked around, and I thought, they're all bums in here. And then it dawned on me, I'm always here. I learned something. I put the glass down, and I said, I'm never coming back here again, and I'm never going to drink this. And I never did. That was a long time ago. But you know what I did? I went from spending all my money in the bar to the racetrack, and I started to bet it all on horses. So I went from making somebody with a bar get wealthy, and then I started to feed the horses. And one day I woke up and I learned something. If you don't consciously and deliberately replace a bad habit with a good habit, you will automatically create another bad habit. Now, what is a habit? A habit is an idea that has been planted in the garden of your subconscious mind and then repetitively fed for a sufficient period of time that you act on it without giving any thought to it. I'll give you an example. I want you to right now mentally imagine you're pulling on your underwear in the morning. What foot do you put in first? I put my right foot in. If I tried to put my left foot in my underwear first, I'd stagger and I'd fall over. You may say, what's this got to do with it? It's got everything to do with it. Why do I put my right foot? You may put your left. Certainly a lot of people do. Well, when I was just a little gaffer, didn't have a clue of how to put underwear on, my mother or my grandmother or my father or somebody came along and they had the underwear read, put your foot in here. Your other foot. What did they do? They had the underwear prepared as if they were going to put it on. And so pretty soon, I was doing it like they were doing it. They, through repetition, planted the idea in my mind. Well, now think of this. You don't just form habits of how to get dressed. You form habits to do everything that you do. And some of them are not that productive. Any idea that you keep dwelling on and impressing upon your subconscious mind becomes fixed in the subconscious mind. A habit is nothing but an idea that's fixed in the subconscious mind that you act on without giving any conscious thought. Many years ago, I went in to train the Prudential Insurance Company of America, their agents. I ended up training all of their agents. And I only got them to do two things. This is in the early 70s.
I got them to form the habit of being in front of a prospect before 9 a.m. and ask everybody they talk to purchase $100,000 worth of insurance. I said, you don't have to sell them, just give them the opportunity to say no. You know, the sales in that company went up by hundreds of millions of dollars. I had a retired VP tell me he thought it was $1 billion. Just changing 2 habits. What habit do you want to change? I'm forever checking out habits I've got. I'm in the habit right now of changing my diet. And you know something? I've been doing it for going on 3 weeks. It's getting easier, but it's still not that easy. I still like to reach over and eat some of that when nobody's looking. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. I'm looking. What habit are you going to form? And you shouldn't try and form more than 2 at once. It'll become too big and too heavy, and you won't form any. Make up your mind you're going to do it every day, every day, every day, until you don't have to think about it, and then you'll automatically do it. I guarantee you, this idea will change your life. Think about it all day, because that is definitely an idea that will give you results that will stick.
Rule number 14, surround your mind with greatness.
Right now, I'm standing in the middle of my library. This is my favorite place. Do you know, Earl Nightingale said, if you surround your mind with greatness, some of it's going to rub off. Well, hopefully, some of it has rubbed off on me. I have maybe 3,000 or 4,000 books here on the shelf. They're all in alphabetical order, by author. They're all cataloged. So I know where to find something just like that. I go by authors more than the title of the book. Do you know that when I started studying these books, I really didn't know very much about anything. I had 2 months high school. I was 26 years old. I had a bad work record, a bad attitude, and virtually no experience. And you know, in a relatively short period of time, my income went from $4,000 to $175,000 a year. Then it went over $1 million.
Rule number 15, be honest with yourself.
I'm going to share some information with you that it could change the direction of your life like night and day. And when I say that, I want you to really stop and take a look at your life. Take an honest look at your life. I was thinking just before I started to make this, we have actually been conditioned to kid with ourselves, to lie to ourselves, to not really take an honest look at the results we're getting. I want you to take a real honest look at your results. And when you look at them, ask yourself, am I living the way I really want to live? You see, most people aren't. One of the first questions I ask a person that comes to work with me, I want to know what's the most they've ever earned in a year. Now, I really don't care what the answer is, but I want to know what the answer is. Because you see, if a person says the most they've ever earned in a year is $50,000, I know where their mind is programmed. If they tell me the most they've ever earned is $250,000, I know where they're programmed. And then I want to find out what they want. And I know then what has to shift, because their mind is programmed, and if they're really going to live the way they want to live, they've got to change the program. And if they don't change the program, then nothing really happens.
Rule number 16, get into the success zone.
I want to suggest that you make up your mind you're going to get in what we call the success zone. It's a way of thinking. Now, get this. If 95, 96% of the population are blowing it, if 1% of the population are earning about 95% of all the money, you're not going to get a whole lot of people agree with what you're doing. Most people are going to look at you kind of strange. What are you going there for? You went there last month. What are you listening to that for? You listened to that before. What are you reading? What do you read the same book over and over for? They don't understand. And you see, they're advertising their ignorance by the questions they ask. When we get into the success zone, everything in our life starts to change. But understand this, you're going to be a bit of an oddball. You're out of the box. You're not one of the masses. And when you get out of the box, your whole world starts to shift.
Rule number 17, be a leader.
There's a boss and there's a leader. Leader get people excited about improving the quality of whatever it is, themselves, their work, whatever they're doing. People follow leaders because they want to. People don't follow leaders because they have to. That becomes a form of dictatorship.
Yeah.
And that never works. The great leaders, people want to follow. And leaders inspire you. Leaders pull the very best out of you. Leaders know how to look inside and bring the best of you to the surface, cause you to look at the higher side of your own personality. What the world always is looking for, it's leader. Like it's silly to ask who's going to lead. The leader's going to lead. Right. And the leader just automatically emerges. If they threw 50 of us into a committee and say, you don't elect a leader, you may elect one, but the leader is going to lead, and it probably isn't the one that's elected.
Yeah, so true.
And everybody, the leader knows how, they know how to get the best out of people.
Rule number 18, know where you're going.
I want to talk to you about where you're going and what you want to do with your life. You see, most people never go after what they want because they don't know every step they have to take to get there. I want you to think of a person going up the side of a wall of ice. Now, the only rule for reaching a goal that you have to know is knowing where you're going and knowing that you're going to get there. You do not have to know how you're going to get there. Now, pay attention to this for a moment. Imagine the climber has all his equipment. He's got his crampons, he's got his climbing rope, his hardware, his ice axes. How does he get to the top? He's standing on the ground and he's looking at maybe 100-foot vertical wall of ice. He looks up and he has absolutely no idea the path that he's going to take. He just sees himself at the top. He reaches up and he puts one pick in and then another pick. Then he raises 1 foot and then the other. Now he's not standing on the ground any longer. He's suspended on the wall on a vertical wall of ice that goes up for 100 feet. He adapts to the changes that is taking place in his environment. And then and only then does he see the next step. And he moves this pick, then this pick, then this foot, then this foot. Now, that's how he gets to the top, a step at a time. And that's how you're going to get to your goal. You just have to know the first step to take. And when you take that step, you're going to find that your conditions, your circumstance, and environment will change. Then you see how you have to make the next step. It's a matter of adapting all the time. You only have to know 2 things. You have to know where you're going, and you have to know that you're going to get there. You've got to see it in your mind. Now, this is the beautiful scenario. This is what it's all about. Save that in your mind and think of it often. Think. Every time you think of your goal and you're trying to figure out how you're going to do it, think of that vertical wall of ice. What's the next step? That's all you really have to know. 1 step at a time. And you'll get to wherever you're going. That's how Hillary got to the top of Mount Everest.
Rule number 19, be open-minded.
In Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, he said, now right here we come to a rather strange fact. We tend to minimize the things we can do, the goals we can accomplish, and for some equally strange reason, we think other people can accomplish things that we cannot. And he points out that there's a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive them. He said no one's ready for a thing until they believe that they can acquire it. The state of mind must be belief and not mere hope or wish. Now, he goes on to caution us. He said open-mindedness is essential to belief. Closed minds will not inspire faith, courage, or belief.
Rule number 20, be willing to do what is required.
A German engineer by the name of Carl Benz had a fantasy, and he literally turned his fantasy into a fact. And in January 1886, Carl Benz was issued a patent for the Benz motor carriage, and the age of the automobile had dawned. This is a replica of that magnificent machine. And you know, before Benz ever turned his fantasy into a theory even, certainly long before he turned it into a fact, he had to ask himself a couple of questions that you and I and every other dreamer will have to go through. He had to ask himself, am I able to do this? Well, he seemed to have that innate awareness of this higher self, this image of perfection within him, and he saw himself as a person that was actually able to take and turn the fantasy into a fact. Now, he must have been a pretty courageous guy because there were no horseless carriages in those days. But then he had to ask himself, am I willing? And you see, he had to ask himself, am I willing to accept the ridicule that I'm bound to get? Am I willing to accept the failures? Well, he said, yes, I am willing. He was willing to pay the ultimate price to turn his fantasy into a fact. And ridicule he got. His own partner thought he had gone mad, and he had to find himself a more congenial colleague to work with. He would take this thing out in the evening. He'd take it out at night, so no one would see him. He'd escape some of the ridicule. And time after time, he couldn't get it going. He had to push it back. But it never dawned on him that he would not ultimately realize his dream. When this magnificent machine completed its first long journey with Benz at the wheel, every beat of the engine found an answering echo in the heart of the driver, as every turn of the wheels brought him closer to his goal, to the realization of what once was a fantasy. Now, in order for you to turn your fantasies into a fact, you have to go through exactly the same process as Carl Benz. And if you do go through the same process, you'll meet with exactly the same success, regardless of the opposition you might come up against. You have to ask, am I able to turn this fantasy of mine into a fact? Can I actually realize it? Can I turn my dreams into reality? Now, you're either going to say, yes, I'm able to, or no, I'm not. If you realize you are able, if you have an understanding of this potential, this power within you, then you have to ask yourself, are you willing? And there's a long series of tests there. You don't even know what you're going to come up against. One thing is for certain, you'll come up against ridicule. You may have to move. You may have to do all kinds of things that you don't even think about. You have to be willing to do whatever's required if you really want to turn your fantasy into a fact. The second you say, yes, I'm willing, at that instant, you've created your theory.
Rule number 21, act on your ideas.
Hello there and welcome. Do you know, almost everyone has a great idea, and they're going to execute the great idea. I have all kinds of people come to me, I've got a great idea I'd like to share with you. What they do is they want me to execute their idea. Why don't they execute their idea? When you get a real good idea, you should act on it. People have ideas of starting a business. I've started a number of different businesses. Question is, where to start? You start where you are, and you start with what you've got. That's all you need. When you start where you are and with what you've got, and you bring your mind to focus on that idea, you will attract everything to you that you need. You are taught, seek ye first this kingdom in its righteousness, and all these things will be given to us. See, when you learn to focus on something, you get on a frequency. And when you're on that frequency, you start to attract whatever you want. You may not have any money. You may not have the resources that you need to execute, to build it into something big. That doesn't matter. All the resources that you need to do anything you want to do is already here. But you've got to get in touch with them. You've got to get in harmony with them, and boom, you'll rush them into your life. You'll attract the money, the people, the thoughts, the things, everything you need, you'll attract to you. So where do you start? You always start where you are, and you start with what you've got. Don't be looking at what you don't have. Think of what you do have. Fall in love with your idea and get it rolling.
Rule number 22, believe.
You tell yourself a lie often enough, you're going to start to believe it. And way around 1900, William James said, believe, and your belief will create the fact. It's got to be believed. You've got to believe it. And if there's no belief, it ain't going to happen. See, when you believe it, you're encased in the idea. You fuse with the idea. And that makes all kinds of things happen. When you believe it, there's no quitting. You never quit. It doesn't matter what happens. You don't quit. Quitting is never an option. The people that quit, they never really bought into the idea in the first place. See, you get it on three levels. The second you think of something, you've got it intellectually. When you get emotionally involved, you've got it on a spiritual or emotional level. Well, then that expresses itself through the body. The body's just an instrument of your mind. And so when you really buy into it, you literally fuse with it. Neville said you fuse with it. And this causes all kinds of things to happen. You're dealing with electronics. You're dealing with energy. Like the second you think something, that's all you need. See, you live on frequencies. You think on frequencies. Your phone operates on frequencies. And it's like magic. You're in Romania, are you?
Right.
I'm in Toronto.
Yes.
If I've got your number on my phone, I could take a picture of something, hit it like that. You've got it in Romania. Simultaneous with me sending it, because when you get into the mind, there isn't any time or space.
It's just immediate.
Yeah. Well, you're living on frequencies. Now, when you think of something, what you've done is you've flipped your brain onto a higher frequency. The very fact you can see it is all the proof you need to know you could get it. What you have to do is raise your level of consciousness to that frequency. And then you will attract whatever's on that frequency. All the good you need to manifest the idea.
Rule number 23, overcome fear.
Overcoming fear is one of the greatest moves a person can make. First of all, we have to ask ourselves what causes fear. Fear is caused by ignorance, not knowing. And if we're going to go and do anything new, if we're going to break out of a paradigm, if we're going to change habit patterns, we're wandering into an area we've never been. And you know, fear stops most people. You'll find people afraid to talk to a stranger. You'll find individuals afraid to stand up and ask a question in front of other people. You'll find salespeople afraid to make a sales call, afraid to ask for the order. Stop and think of how confining that is. A person's putting themselves into a small cell, but it's in their own mind. The doors aren't locked. They can open, and you can walk away to freedom. If you learn to overcome fear. When you face fear, it leaves you. Face the thing you fear, and it'll leave you. That's really the secret of it. In fact, if you hold yourself back because of fear, your life actually comes to a stop, because nothing gets better than it is. You've got to be courageous. Now, courageous people aren't without fear. Courageous people are the ones that face their fear. I think Eddie Rickenbacker pointed that out, the great pilot. Don't let fear stop you. Make up your mind you're going to step out and do it. Stop and think of the number of people that are in jobs that they don't like and they're afraid to leave. Or people in relationships that are destructive and they're afraid to leave. This is a terrible way to live, and it's not necessary. It's just caused by ignorance. And when we step out and do something, we gain an awareness. We develop an understanding. And like that, the fear is gone. Make up your mind that fear is not going to stop you from doing the thing you really want to do. Step out and do it today.
Rule number 24, visualize.
And when I was 26, I had a man that sat down with me and he said, why don't you change the way you're living? It never entered my mind that I could. And looking back and thinking about it, I think there's all kinds of people wandering the planet. There's all kinds of athletes that are not getting the results they want, and they don't know they can change them.
Right, only one person can change.
There's only one person in the whole universe that can change Bob, and that's Bob.
Yeah.
There's only one person can change Dave, and that's Dave. Now, we get inspired by other people, we get help from other people, but we've got to do it ourselves. And he gave me Think and Grow Rich, and he said, if you do exactly what I tell you, you can have anything you want. Well, I didn't believe that, but he was so adamant about it, I believed he believed it. And so I started to listen to him. And I set a goal. I wanted some money. I wanted $25,000. Now, this was in 1961, so it was more money then than it is today. But I didn't even know anyone with $25,000. He said, listen, write it on a card, keep reading the book, keep doing what I tell you. So I started to hear people talking about earning money. And there was one guy said, there's good money cleaning floors. You should clean floors. Well, I wasn't proud. I'd clean floors. And he said, but you should do it for yourself, not for somebody else. So he told me where I could buy a used floor machine, some buckets and mops, but I had to borrow $1,000. Well, I was at the point where nobody wanted to touch me with money. And I often say, I wouldn't have lent it to me.
Right.
Because I wouldn't pay it back. Not that I didn't want to, I just couldn't.
But I found a guy and he lent me the $1,000.
When you borrow, excuse me, because I have a question, because I know you. When you borrowed that $1,000, because you owed people money already, you had explained that to people, you were just finding yourself. But did you have a different feeling about when you borrowed this $1,000 that quite possibly you were actually going to be able to pay this back this time?
Do you know something? If I hadn't had that feeling, I wouldn't have got the money. I got it from a guy, I knew his name, Al Kuiper. He was running, and I didn't know him, he had a trust company. It was like a bank on Danforth Avenue in Toronto. And I went in, I read a book where it says, go to one bank, and then we'll give you, go to another one. Well, I ended up sitting in his office, and he said, what do you want this money for, son? And I told him I was going to build a cleaning company. It was going to be big. I had a dream. And I had to explain it all to him. He said, I think you'll do it. I'm going to lend you the money.
Faith.
But I knew when I was doing this, I had a picture, I had a dream, you see?
Yep.
And within a year, I was earning $175,000 a year. I had my billing up to $15,000 a month working for myself. In less than 5 years, we were working in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, and London, England. I had my own company opening offices all over the place.
Rule number 25, know what you want.
Why most people don't get what they want out of life? Is it...
Well, they don't know what they want.
That's right.
You see, I got this, and then I got Earl Nightingale's condensed narration of this on a long playing record. And I'd listen to that record over and over and over again. One day, I was in the business, in the cleaning business. I had salespeople, and I had them listen to this record. Every morning we listened to this record. And one day I said, I'd love to meet him. And I didn't know who Earl Nightingale was. He was a voice on a record. That was it. I didn't even know where he lived. And a young guy that worked with me, he said, no, you wouldn't. He said, if you wanted to meet him, you'd go and meet him. I thought, damn, he's right. So I phoned, and I got an appointment with him. Now, at the time, he was the most listened to man in the history of the broadcasting industry. He was a radio broadcaster. And not an easy guy to get to, but I got to meet with him for an hour. I flew to Chicago. I spent an hour with him. And when I was leaving, I said, Earl, what's the big deal? What's it all about? He said, there's no big deal. He said, it's very simple. He says, simply decide what you love to do and then dedicate your life to it. He said, the problem with most people, they don't know what they love to do. They never take the time to sit and ask themselves. What they're doing is I think I can get earn good money here. I could do it. It's where can they earn some money? It's not what they love to do. Well, I was sitting there. Now, I had offices all over the place. I had a lot of people. I was earning a lot of money. And I got excited because I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to do what he was doing. And I made up my mind sitting in his office. That'd be somewhere around 1965, that I was going to go back and I was going to work with him. And in 1968, I moved to Chicago. I left my own company. I moved to Chicago and I started to work with him.
Rule number 26, be more patient.
We hear patience is a virtue. I suppose it probably is. But I think patience, real patience, is an expression of deep understanding. You see, everything happens when it's supposed to happen. Everything in this universe happens by law. We set targets and we need things to happen. We need something to come or someone to do something. And frequently we get frustrated because it isn't happening when we think it should happen. Our problem is we're not thinking. We believe we're in charge. We are not in charge. We are in charge of building the idea and holding the idea. Everything else happens automatic. It happens by law. All ideas have a gestation or an incubation period. I'm told when we plant a carrot in the area of the world that I live, it takes approximately 70 days for that carrot to grow and manifest in form. When the seed for the baby's planted, it takes approximately 280 days. And we're usually patient. We will wait the 280 days. Why? Because we know it's going to take approximately 280 days. Well, just because we don't know how long it's going to take doesn't mean that it isn't operating by the same laws. Everything operates by law. So if we gain an understanding that all the ideas in our mind will ultimately move into form, that's what Andrew Carnegie taught Napoleon Hill. Carnegie was Hill's mentor. He said any idea that's held in the mind, that's emphasized, that's either feared or revered, will begin at once to clothe itself in the most convenient and appropriate form available. You might want to listen to that 2 or 3 times. Burn it into your mind. Gain an understanding of it. And you will know that whatever you're working on takes a period of time. No one knows what the gestation period is for an idea. We only know we can shorten it through concentration, through focus. And when you understand that, you will become more patient. And when you're more patient, you're living in a much more beautiful vibration. You'll be a more pleasant person to be around. You will enjoy yourself more. Patience. It's the result of understanding.
Rule number 27, tap into your genius.
If you really analyze your beliefs, you'll change them.
Right.
I had a friend one time, I was trying to figure out where do beliefs come from. How do you, because all religion and all science will tell you, you got to believe it. William James from Harvard, 1900, he said, believe and your belief will create the fact. So belief is an interesting word. You got to believe it. And I was having lunch with a mentor one time, and he said, our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. Frequently, if we reevaluate a situation, our belief about that situation will change. It was like bells were going off my head because I was trying to understand belief. How do you change your belief? Well, he told me, it's through reevaluation. And so I started to evaluate myself and reevaluate what I was doing. It took me 9.5 years, but I figured out why I changed. And it was the repetition of information.
Thank you.
You're in sports, you know, it's repetition.
Yep.
Repetition, repetition. Well, but practice doesn't make you perfect. Perfect practice makes you perfect. There's a big difference.
Great point.
And so I found that the part of our mind that controls our behavior is not the part of our mind that gathers information. School deals with the part of your mind that gathers information. And so we gather all kinds of information, and if we can remember it, they give us a test, we pass the test, we get the degree, and we're educated. That's not education at all. That is gathering information. Education, as Hill pointed out, comes from the Latin educo, meaning to reduce, to develop, or to draw from within. We have genius in us. We have absolute perfection in us. And what we have to do is learn how to tap into that, to let it out. But we have a part of our mind that controls our behavior, and that's where a paradigm is. And the paradigm literally controls our behavior. I don't care what you're doing. If you're not altering the paradigm, you're not going to improve your results. There's so much about ourselves we never learn. The part of our mind that controls us is our intellect, or our subconscious, where the paradigm is, but we're trained to live through our senses. We're trained to go by what we see, hear, smell, taste, touch. And we've got to understand that we've got this genius within us, and if we will consciously gain an awareness, an understanding of how to alter the paradigm that's controlling our behavior, when we learn that, we can start to improve life, just like that. And there's no end to what we're capable of doing. We're conditioned genetically. All mom's DNA and all dad's DNA becomes our DNA. There's 2 particles of energy come together. That's the moment of conception. 280 days later, we make our debut on the planet. Then we're programmed by our environment, because our subconscious mind, which is totally deductive, it has no ability to reject. The subconscious mind is immoral. It's like the earth. It doesn't care what you plant, but it'll return what you plant. Right. Earl Nightingale used a beautiful example in The Strangest Secret. He said, you can plant nightshade, a deadly poison, not a 16th of an inch away. You can plant corn, a sweet food. One will grow with just as great an abundance as the other. And that's the way your subjective mind works. You put the wrong idea in, it will grow. Put the right idea in, it will grow. We have the ability to change what's in there. We did not program it. It was programmed through genetic history. We're the confluence of a genetic pool that goes back for generations.
That's at birth, and then environmentally. And we have the ability to alter all that.
Rule number 28, get good mentors.
See, any success I've had because I've got great mentors. And I'm a good student. Now, until I was 26, I was a terrible student. When I picked up this book, I became a great student. I've got thousands of books. I have an office at home in my home. It's got a couple of thousand books in it, and then I built a studio, and I've got a couple of thousand books in the studio. I love reading. But the success that I've enjoyed is because of the mentors or the coaches I've had. I would do exactly what they tell me. And if I coach somebody today and they don't do exactly what I tell them, I don't coach them anymore. Just like that, it's all over.
It's not ready.
Well, it's not that only that they're not ready, but if I'm going to coach somebody and they're not doing what I tell them, I'm wasting my time and theirs too. Now, if they want to waste their time, that's their prerogative. I'm not going to waste mine.
Rule number 29, practice forgiveness.
You know, forgiving is one of the most freeing concepts anybody can ever get involved with. Most people look at forgiveness as helping the other person. Somebody hurts you, somebody does you wrong, but you're going to forgive them. You're going to be kind to them. It has nothing to do with the other person. It has to do with yourself. That's really what it has to do. See, forgiveness is a cleansing concept. It's clearing the mind of all negativity, clearing the mind of anything that might go wrong. It's a very freeing concept. If you were to do some harm to me and I forgive you, you haven't got anything to do with it. It's I'm letting go of something that was bothering me, that's negative. And I don't want to hold on to that. Forgiving frees the one that's doing the forgiving. It's a phenomenal concept. Forgive means to let go of completely, abandon, let it go. Don't hold on to it. You know, if somebody does you wrong, you have to ask yourself, wonder why they would do that. There's something bothering them. They're not really trying to hurt you. It's something that's bothering them. Let it go. Just forgive it. Forgive the idea. And I guarantee you'll feel a lot better.
Rule number 30, develop confidence.
And one of the greatest hang-ups that people have is the belief in themselves. They suffer from something called self-doubt. Many years ago, I read something. It was by Ralph Waldo Emerson. It was his essay on self-reliance. That's what we want to do. We want to rely on self. And in that, he said, there would come a time in every person's education when they'd realize that envy is ignorance and imitation is suicide. So many people look at someone that's doing very well, possibly in the same field they're in, and envy them. Do you know what that's saying? That's saying, I don't know that I have the same mental faculties you've got. I'm drawing on the same potential that you're drawing on. There is only one mind. I don't know that. So I'm going to envy you thinking you can do something I'm not able to do. The truth is, if you can do it, I can do it. Envy is ignorance. It's not knowing that. And he said, imitation is suicide. Do you know that nothing in this universe would move in the precise order it moves in your absence? That's true. Everything in the universe is essential. You take any part away from anything, it's not complete. And everything in the universe moves in a very precise way. So do you see, we shouldn't even want to be like anybody else because we are unique. We are truly unique. There's something about us that you'll never find in another person. We're unique. And we've got the godlike ability to think. Now, what is self-doubt? Self-doubt is the opposite of self-confidence. Confidence comes from understanding. Like I would imagine you're confident you can drive your car. In fact, you're so confident that you'll be talking to somebody on the phone, you'll get in the car, you'll start the car, you'll drive, and you'll drive maybe 4 or 5 blocks, not even being aware of what you've done. It's all done automatic. Your concentration is on the conversation you're on. Now, when you first got in a car, you couldn't do that. The car was probably jumping all over the place, and you thought you'd never learn how to drive it. But you learned how to drive it. Now you're quite confident. You're confident that you can get dressed when you get up in the morning. When you were a little boy or a little girl, you couldn't do that. You had to be taught to do it. Well, you know, self-confidence comes, like all confidence, it comes with knowledge. And the more you study you, the more you understand who you are, the more confident you'll become in your ability to do whatever it is you're doing. And you'll know that if you lack confidence in an area, it's because you lacked information in that area. Never doubt yourself. And when you do, understand that the cause of that doubt is not lying within you, it's in wrong thinking, it's in not understanding who you are. Study yourself. Self-study will develop self-confidence, and self-confidence eliminates self-doubt.
Rule number 31, move into action.
You know, Don Shula, the coach of the old Miami Dolphins, he said it's the start that stops most people. And he's right. It is the start that stops most people. They're always going to get ready, to get set, to get going. What we've got to do is, boom, just like that, move into action. See, if you don't get started, you're never going to get finished. How do we do that? Start early. I believe when you wake up, you should get up. The second you wake up, get your feet hit the floor, move into action. And you know, you'd be wise if you sit down at night before you go to bed and write down 6 goal-achieving activities. Now, that isn't go to the store or go to the bank or get to cleaning. It's not that. These are goal-achieving activities. Write down 6 of them. And when you wake up in the morning, you move into action. You know where you're going to go. You don't even have to think about it. Step into action and get on the first one. When you get it done, forget it and go to the second one. Don't think about the first one. Focus on 2. Don't even think about 3. When you get 2 done, go to 3. But knock them off one at a time. If you don't get them all done, just move them over on to the next day. Now, that doesn't mean if you only get 3 done that you have 9 the next day. There are 3 of the 6 that you're going to do the next day. 6 goal-achieving activities. And when you wake up in the morning, move into action on them. Quit holding yourself back. Don't wait. You say, well, I really don't know how I'm going to get started, and the way will show itself. It just appears. I have found when you get started, when you move into action, everything starts to happen around you.
Rule number 32, have a strong why.
I have worked all over the world. I mean, all over Asia, China, South America, North America, Europe. And I'm always asking people, what do you really want? And I have found most people don't want to be really wealthy. What they do want is they don't want to have any financial concerns. If they want to buy a new suit, they can go and get one. If they want to take a trip, they can take the trip. If they want a new car, they can get the new car. They don't want to just run out and spend or buy. They don't want to have any financial concerns. 2, they want to wake up in the morning excited about how they're going to spend their day. Oof. And the 3rd, they want to mix with people who are upbeat and creatively productive. These are the 3 things that people really want. So in answer to your question, if somebody's watching, what's the first thing they should do? Well, the first thing they should do is understand why we have goals. Not just to set a goal, because most people don't set goals right. They're operating with a limited level of consciousness, so they're thinking, if I could get a little more money, and if I could get him to help me and her to help me, and this happened, then I could do this. Maybe this is get a new car. What we've got to understand is we're trading our life for our goals. Literally trading our life. Would you trade your life for a car or a house? I don't think so. So it's got to be something really meaningful. And we're not taught to think this way. We should sit down and don't give any thought to where the money's going to come from, where the help's going to come from. It's what do you really want? Like Ed Hillary was a beekeeper in Auckland.
That story.
He wanted to climb Mount Everest. It had never been done. People died trying to do it. He went in 51 and failed. He went back in 52 and failed. In 1953, he stood on top of the mountain with Tenzing Norgay. But he didn't know how to get there until after he had got there.
Edison didn't know how to illuminate the world until after he had done it. The Wright brothers were bicycle mechanics in Dayton, Ohio. No one believed you could fly. They had been trying it for years.
But they saw it.
But they wanted to do it. They didn't know how, and they couldn't tell you until after they had done it. Now, the first flight only lasted 12 seconds. And the naysayer said, yeah, but they only were up there for 12 seconds. They said, we not only got up there, we kept the damn thing up there for 12 seconds. So when a person sets a goal, they've got to say, what could I want? If I just let my mind just wander, use my imagination, how do I really want to live? That's what they should be doing.
Rule number 33, start with a vision.
Most people don't use their imagination constructively. Most people use their imagination destructively. They imagine what they don't want. We've got to consciously and deliberately imagine what we do want. If we will take and sit down with a pen and ask ourselves, what do I really want? What do I really want? And write it down. And then make a written description of it in the present tense. Writing causes thinking. Thinking creates an image. And you get these images going, you're building a vision in your mind. It's the visionaries that's changed the world. Think of that. The fact that I can sit and look into this camera, and you can sit and look at me on your phone, or on your TV, or on your laptop. That was the result of somebody's vision. Do you know everything you've got, the clothes you wear, the house you live in, this microphone that's in front of me, it was all the result of somebody's vision. It's not an accident. You and I have a marvelous imagination. And everything starts with a vision. Van Gogh was asked how he did such beautiful work. He said, first I dream my painting, and then I paint my dream.
Rule number 34, improve your self-image.
You know, Dr. Maxwell Maltz wrote a book back around 1960. It was called Self-Image Psychology, Psycho-Cybernetics. It's a phenomenal book. He said it was the greatest discovery of his generation. He was a cosmetic or reconstructive surgeon, and he found he would do work on people. He might have done a nose job or removed a terrible scar. And he noticed that when he did that, there was a phenomenal change in their personality. But he noticed with others, he would make a phenomenal physical change and there was no change in their personality. And that led him to postulate that we have two images. We have the one that's coming back from the mirror, but we've got an inner image. And that inner self-image is literally controlling our life. You will find people that have a very poor self-image or low self-esteem. They won't look you straight in the eye. They're afraid to shake hands with you. They're very shy and withdrawn. They go through life hiding from life. They don't like themselves. They don't know themselves. Do you know when a person improves their self-image, they change their entire life. Their income changes, their relationship changes, their health changes. And do you know how you do that? Start studying you. Start to find out more about you. There's something phenomenal about you. Do you know when I began to study this material 57 years ago, I had very poor self-image. I had low self-esteem. I took dumb jobs. I never earned any money. I never had fun. I had poor relationships. And as I started to study real solid information, everything in my life started to improve. I've got friends all over the world today. I earn millions of dollars. I'm in my 80s and I got as much energy as a person in their 30s. Do you see, when you start to understand really who you are, you're God's highest form of creation. There's things about you that just about blow your mind as you start to study and really understand them. You'll walk a little taller. You'll stand a little straighter. And you know something? You'll enjoy a whole lot more of life.
Rule number 35, develop awareness.
You've got to wake up. You see, all we're ever going to get is awareness. We've already got everything. The only thing we lack is the awareness of what we've got. We're God's highest form of creation. There's nothing on the planet that will equal us. Well, that's all any of us are after. That's all the problems in the world come from ignorance. That's the purpose of life, to overcome ignorance, develop awareness. The only way to overcome ignorance is through knowledge. And the only way to get the knowledge is to study. Most people, they finish school, close the book, say, that's over. I'm never going to open another book as long as I live. They're screwed. It's all over.
Rule number 36, make decisions.
You know, Napoleon Hill, in Think and Grow Rich, wrote an entire chapter on decision. Most people never make decisions. They have a difficult time with it. Why is that? I think they have a difficult time because their parents made decisions for them until they were too old. And they never learned how to make them. Do you know, the one thing that I did with my kids, I never made a decision for them. They didn't like it. They'd say, come on, don't do that to me. And I said, no, what do you think you should do? And I'd leave it at that. Decision making is a phenomenal concept. And you're going to find out, as he points out in here, that successful people make decisions very fast and they change them very slow, if and when they change them at all. And he said the people that have difficulty in life make their decisions very slow and then change them fast and often. And you know, decision making is a funny thing. You and I think on frequencies. If we could see a bunch of lines and we're thinking on a frequency, and we're on this frequency here and we're saying, I'm going to do that when this changes. This is never going to change until you get up on this frequency. See, the good that you're after is on a higher frequency than you're operating on, a greater awareness. And if you're down here and you're thinking here on this frequency, and the good you want up here, you got to get your mind up there. How do you get up there? Make the decision, be there. And that's really what you have to do. The second you make a decision, you flip your brain onto a different frequency, and you start to attract things to you that you'd never get without making the decision.
Rule number 37, get out of the box.
See, someone woke me up. That's all I want to do with someone else. What the man said to me, the first guy, he said, you can have whatever you want. Well, you know, you get thinking that you can get out of the box. That's why you've been given an imagination, to get out of the box. It's with your imagination that you build images of what you want. And if you can build the image, you can do it. You can hold it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. When we understand that, like I would imagine this goes out to a lot of athletes, does it? Well, they can have anything they want. They got to pay the price. And when doubt comes in, kick it out. You can't afford the doubt.
Rule number 38, grow yourself.
If I want to do something, I find somebody that's already done it. And then I do exactly what they tell me. It's a simple rule to follow. I don't read novels. I don't watch movies. I'd watch documentaries or things like that where I can learn. I'm only interested in studying something that can cause me to become more of what I'm capable of being. See, I think we're all hardwired to do something really special with our life. And that's all I want to do. I'm really good at what I do. I could walk by a person in the hall and like that, I could tell them exactly what they're like. I could read their energy like a book. Everything goes on the inside, shows on the outside. See, we're gifted with faculties of the mind that the average person knows nothing about. You have intuition, the will, reason, imagination, perception, memory. That's what separates us from all the rest of forms of life. We go through school and never learn anything about it. Like you'll hear people say they have a bad memory. There's no such thing as a bad memory. Everybody has a perfect memory. It's just weak. They've never developed it. Our imagination. Your imagination is the most magnificent. Hill said it's the most marvelous, miraculous, inconceivably powerful force the world's ever known. I can use my imagination to project myself into the future and bring the future into the present and start living there. You work from the imagination. You don't work to it. You work from it.
Backwards from the result.
Yeah.
Rule number 39, surround yourself with greatness.
Do you know the people you surround yourself with have a phenomenal impact on your life? I think it was Carl Menninger from the Menninger Foundation one time said, environment is more important than heredity. The people we're surrounded by have a greater bearing on our life and our success in life than what's built into the genes at birth. There's genetic conditioning, there's environmental conditioning. Well, this environmental conditioning goes on all the way through life. You will find as you improve the quality of your life, improve your thinking, you're going to attract a different group of people into your life, and they are going to add to your life. See, the people we're surrounded by, their thinking is going right into our mind. We want to mix with people who are really making it happen. Take a look at your 5 people that you're with most often and ask yourself, if I have children, would I want them to grow up be like them? If the answer is no, you better start looking for some new friends. If the answer is yes, you're already in the right circle of people. Think about what I'm saying. The people we're surrounded with have a phenomenal impact on our life and help make us who we are.
Rule number 40, believe.
William James from Harvard said, believe and your belief will create the fact. All things are possible if you believe. Well, you know, I studied for a long time. I started to study this book, Think and Grow Rich. And he talks about belief in here. He says, you're not ready for what you want until you believe you can get it. I found that the only 2 sources of reference we could go to find out anything about ourselves is science and religion. They all say you've got to believe. So I got figuring out, how do you believe? How do you change a belief? Interesting subject, because I'm going to tell you something. Your results are nothing but the manifestation of your belief system. Well, our belief system, now listen carefully, is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently when we reevaluate a situation, our belief about that situation will change. Let me repeat that. Our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. Frequently, if we reevaluate a situation, our belief about it will change. I began reevaluating who I was. I started to study. I never stopped studying. And I found as I reevaluated, I had a much higher opinion of myself. I found out things about me that I would have never believed if you had told me. The power that's locked up within us, the marvelous system we've got. Do you know the blood circulates through your veins every 33 seconds, through hundreds of miles of passageway? Bang, just like that, clears all the food in and all the garbage out. Stop and think of the central nervous system. It's the most complex electrical system in the world. And you've got it. Think of your brain, an electronic switching station like that. You can change the vibration of yourself and everything around you. We have awesome powers, and it's all based on what you believe about you.
Rule number 41, trade your life for worthy goals.
You know, the law of success is a pretty interesting concept. There's been books written on it, stories told on it. Lives have been spent looking for it. Let's understand that everything operates by law. The whole universe operates by law. The best definition of success I have ever heard was one that Earl Nightingale originated way back in 1959. He said, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Well, let's break that down for a moment. Success is the progressive, continually moving, progressive realization, constant awareness of a worthy ideal. An ideal is an idea that you have fallen in love with. An ideal is an idea that you're intellectually, emotionally, and physically involved with. An ideal is an idea that you've fallen in love with. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So you don't ask, are you worthy of the idea? Are you worthy of the good? Is it worthy of you? Now you're getting in to law of success. Is it worthy of you? You see, what you're going to do is trade your life. You're trading your life for whatever it is you're going after. So you want to make up your mind, whatever your goal happens to be, whatever you are pursuing, make certain it's worthy of you because you're trading your life for it. The law of success calls for you to continually moving toward a predetermined objective in life. and bringing your life in harmony with the laws that govern the entire universe.
Rule number 42, manage your activities.
Think of this for a moment. Do you know that every living soul gets exactly the same amount of time? Exactly the same amount of time. Figure it out. You get all there is. A hobo sleeping under a bridge or on a park bench that has no material possessions, none, does nothing of any constructive nature. That person gets exactly the same amount of time as the most productive industrialist in the world. We all get exactly the same amount of time. So it's what we do with the time that makes a difference. Now, I want you to think of the number of time management programs. Almost everyone under the sun has time management programs. In fact, I made one time, spent a lot of money on it. And then I found out it was a dumb waste of time and money. Do you know why? Time can't be managed. I was having breakfast with Earl Nightingale one morning. It was downtown Chicago, and I was going with him on a speaking engagement, and it was early in the morning. He said, "You want to meet for breakfast?" Whenever Earl Nightingale said, "You want to meet me?" I was there, and I always had some well-prepared questions. And I remember asking him, I said, "Earl, how did you learn how to master time management?" You know, we're having breakfast. I can still hear his fork hit the plate. He said, "What the hell are you talking about?" He said, "I've never mastered time management. Nobody masters time management." He said, "Time can't be managed." He said, "I merely manage activity." And he took a little card out of his pocket. And he said, "Every night before I go to bed, I write down 6 most important things I have to do tomorrow. These are goal-achieving activities. And when I wake up, that's what I start working on. And if I don't get them all done, I'll add them to tomorrow's list." You should have about 6. Now, if I have 3 that I didn't get done today, that doesn't mean I have 9 for tomorrow, like 6 plus these 3. Those 3 become part of the 6 you have to do the next day. When you wake up, you give all your conscious attention to do those things. See, you cannot manage time, but you can manage activity. You can manage your activities. Make certain that what you're doing really makes a difference. Make certain that you're spending your time on activities that are productive, that are taking you in the direction of your goal.
Rule number 43, study yourself.
I met a man here in Toronto. He was one that originally got me involved in studying this, Ray Stanford. And he told me if I didn't like the results I was getting in my life, that I was going to have to change me because they were my results. And he said, if you're going to change you, you're going to have to find out something about yourself. And that seemed to make sense. I don't think it was an earth-shattering idea. It wouldn't give anybody a brain hernia, but it made a hell of a lot of sense to me. So I started to study myself. I found most people don't know who they are. They really don't.
What do you mean? I mean, I know my name, I know my age, I know where I live.
Yeah, that's not
what
you,
else
though.
Is there?
You know, that's
what
just
size,
it. If you ask the average person who they are, they'll give you their name. They'll say, "I'm Bob Proctor," but I'm not. Bob and Proctor are 2 words. My parents give them to me. They're called names, but it's not me. It's my name. Then somebody will say, "Well, this is me," but this isn't me either. It's my body. Like, you never phone down here to the studio and say, "Body won't be in today. It's sick."
Okay.
You know, we don't say "am hand" or "am leg." It's my hand, my leg, my body, my name. Who am I? Well, that's an interesting question. And I believe if a person will start to study that and look for the answer, they'll find it. See, I think we live simultaneously on 3 planes of understanding. We're spiritual creatures, we have an intellect, and we live in physical bodies.
Okay.
But because we lack awareness or understanding of who we are, we're totally locked into a physical world, and we let things outside of us control us. 95% of the population are reacting to life. They're not really living at all.
Rule number 44, study your will.
When President John Kennedy asked the father of the space program, the famous Dr. Wernher von Braun, what it would take to build a rocket that would carry a person to the moon and bring him back safely to Earth, he answered him in 5 words: the will to do it. The will to do it. Pretty light, simple answer for such an enormous question. But I'm going to tell you something, the will to do it, that had a lot of power in it. What do we mean by that, the will to do it? Well, will is one of your higher faculties. You have perception, reason, memory, imagination, intuition, and the will. Will is a mental faculty that gives you the ability to hold one idea on the screen of the mind to the exclusion of all outside distractions. You know, you'd be hard pressed to figure out how many things are trying to grab your attention at any given time. But there's all kinds of things going on around that are begging your conscious attention. You can block them all out and keep one idea on the screen of the mind with your will. Will is a mental faculty that gives you the ability to hold one idea on the screen of the mind to the exclusion of all outside distractions. It's the will that gives you the ability to concentrate. Concentration is a powerful mental tool. How do you develop your will? I'll tell you. You take your pen or a little black marker and go opposite to your favorite chair. There's a wall opposite your favorite chair. Put a little dot on the wall. Do it when nobody sees you doing it, and nobody will ever notice the dot's there. Every time you sit in that favorite chair, focus on that dot. Bring all of your conscious attention to bear on the dot. Now, when you look at your mind will wander. That's okay. Don't feel bad because it wandered. Bring it back to the dot. Every time it wanders, if you concentrate on that dot for a half a second, you'll probably set a family record. Our mind is so busy. You focus on the dot, you find your mind wander. Don't feel bad, bring it back to the dot. You can get to the point where you can concentrate for quite a while. And I'm telling you, you concentrate for a while, you're developing great powers. Or get a candle in a candle holder and put it somewhere around your favorite chair. When you're alone, light the candle and stare at the flame. And stare at that flame until you mentally become one with the flame. Now again, your mind's going to wander. Don't feel bad about it. Bring it back to the flame. Just bring it back to the flame. When you learn to concentrate on one thing, you can concentrate on anything because that is how you develop your will.
Rule number 45, serve.
Opportunity is an interesting word. And like most words, it's misunderstood. See, the average person is looking at opportunity as something they're going to get. So they're out looking to get something. Opportunity is what you're going to give. See, it's the person that's thinking of an idea. How can I do more? How can I provide more service for the people we provide service for? Do you know I spend almost all of my time thinking of how I can help you more than I'm helping you? I'm here in my studio. We spent $1 million building this studio so that I can communicate more effectively with our clients. Opportunity is in giving. It's not receiving. It's not getting, it's giving. It's sharing. It's putting something out there.
Rule number 46, get real success.
Success is a funny word. Nightingale had a great definition for it. He said a person's successful if they know where they are and they know where they're going and they're progressively moving in that direction. He said that success was the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Anyone that has a goal and they're moving towards it, they're successful. Most people think that you're successful if you have a lot of money. Quite often you have a lot of money if you're successful, but it isn't. I wouldn't say Mother Teresa has a lot of money.
Okay.
No, but she's a pretty successful lady.
Rule number 47, use your imagination.
Attracting what you actually want. I think James Allen put it very well in his little book, As a Man Thinketh. He said, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. Now think about that. If you want to attract what you want, you've got to see yourself already with it. You've got to understand that you've already got it. First of all, clearly understand this. Nothing is created or destroyed. That means everything's already here. If not in one state, certainly in another. Where did the iPhone come from? The iPhone came from a series of ideas that individuals entertained in their mind. And they kept holding the idea until the stuff came to them that enabled them to build the phone. The stuff had already been here. Nothing is created or destroyed. All science, all theology teach that. If nothing's created or destroyed, everything that is already here. Our problem is we've got to wait until we see it outside before we believe we've got it. Start dealing with the non-physical world, with the invisible world, with the world that you can't see through these little peepers that you've got here we call eyes. Start to see yourself mentally. You've been given the faculties to do that. Use your imagination. See yourself already in possession of the good you desire. that will flip your mind onto a specific frequency. And you do think on frequencies. It's on that frequency that good you desire is going to start coming toward you, and you will start moving toward it. If you want to attract what you actually want, you've got to see yourself now already with it. And know it's only a period of time until you moving toward it and it moving toward you, and you become one with it.
Rule number 48, shift your paradigm.
Stop and think of any large company. I don't care, anyone.
Right.
You can go to the leaders of that company and you can say, who are your stars? I mean the ones that are really making it happen. And they've all got a few. Say, what are they doing that's so different? Why don't you find out what they're doing and teach it to everybody? Oh, well, everybody couldn't do it. Why are they doing it? You know something? The stars don't know why they're stars. And they'll say, well, they're smart. Some of them aren't very smart. Smart's got nothing to do with it. They have shifted their paradigm. They've knocked the wall down and they built an image and they followed the rules. They just didn't know what they were doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I was earning over $1 million a year. I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I'd say I was cleaning offices. That was almost incidental. What I was doing, I was reading this every day. I was listening to the recordings every day. I was reprogramming my subconscious mind.
Rule number 49, control your happiness.
Everybody wants to be happy, but not everybody is happy. You know, I could take you back to the man that gave me this book, Ray Stanford. I was a very unhappy individual. I was a sad soul, believe me. And I remember one day he said, Proctor, you're going to have to change. He said, would you like to be happy? Well, I used to think that was something that happened to some people, but you weren't in control of it. I really never knew that I could control my own happiness. I did not know that. And I'm going to tell you something. There's a whole lot of people who do not know that. Otherwise, you wouldn't find so many people who are pretty sad. He said, I'm going to tell you a secret, Proctor. And he said, if you get it, you can benefit from this till you're a very old man. He said, you are in control of your own happiness. Now he said, I'm going to tell you why you're not happy. There's a power or a thought energy flowing into your consciousness. And you know what you do? You bottle it all up inside. All of your energy is focused on you. You are the only thing you think about. Poor me. I wished I had some money. I wished. But your thoughts are always about yourself. If you find someone else to help, if you can help someone, and I'm going to tell you, there's a whole lot of people out there want help. If you will focus on helping other people, you're going to be one happy cat. Now, I don't think I got it right away. But he knew probably I wasn't going to get it right away. And so every time I saw him, he said, who you been helping? Well, I don't know. See, I wasn't helping anybody. I was trying to figure out how to get some money, how to help me. I want you to think about this for a moment. There's so many people need help. Chapter 14 in The Science of Getting Rich is a powerful concept. Leave everyone with the impression of increase. If you do that, you're helping people. Happiness is always found in the person who is focusing on helping other people.
And rule number 50, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is get unstuck.
What keeps people stuck month after month, year after year? 90-some% of the population are stuck. You've got people graduating with all kinds of degrees, and the results wouldn't indicate that they know very much at all. Most people don't understand what's going on inside. There's something that's stopping them, and it's called a paradigm. See, when paradigms are in control, nothing changes. Nothing. And that's why most people, they get the same results year after year. People know how to do better than they're doing. The problem is they don't know why they're not doing what they know how to do. See, it's the paradigm that produces the result. And if we're going to change the result, there's only one way to do it. Just one. You're going to change the paradigm.
A man's environment is a merciless mirror of him as a human being. And if he thinks his environment can stand a little improvement, all he has to do is improve, and his environment will improve to reflect the changing man.
All knowledge, all power is 100% evenly present in all places at the same time. Your spiritual DNA is perfect, so is mine. There's perfection within. What we've got to learn is draw it out.
Now I've got a special bonus clip from Bob on how to change from the inside that I think you're gonna enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Let's go from just watching a video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1. Where do you need to believe more in yourself? Number 2, what's the fear that you need to overcome? And number 3, how can you visualize overcoming that fear and achieving success?
However, once your desire has been firmly established, it is the expectant attitude that ensures your goal or dream is not uprooted or replaced by any opposing idea. You see, when you understand how this power works and your conscious relationship to it, you're not going to be knocked off track by circumstance because you are expecting the right thing to happen. Like Paul Hutsey said, he said, I found the 10-acre lot because I was looking for the 10-acre lot. Most people don't expect it. They just think because they've changed vocations, they've changed towns, they've changed spouses, they've changed clothes, they've changed cars, that everything's going to happen. You don't change the kitchen by painting the outside of the house. If you want your results to change permanently and dramatically, you got to change them inside.
If you want to learn how to change the paradigm with Bob Proctor, check out their video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
When you're going ahead, the only thing you can measure is what you're giving up. What about what's coming? You know what's coming? What you want.